one of my biggest regrets working at this company. I mean, he really is a legend in this area,
sure.
Deservedly so. And one of the things we say about him is it's not just that he started a penny saver and a publishing company. He actually helped create commerce for this area by what he did,
sure.
And that's become one of our mottos.
He's almost like an economic engine in a sense.
Exactly.
That's a
very good way of putting it. Yeah. And so, in addition to Carl, Frank Rich, who I refer to as our management guru, they've been doing a great job of moving the company forward and investing. And
so it's not just the penny saver in the North County News, though. Actually, sounds like
that's
it's
one of the things. Right, I wanted to.
It's even much bigger than that.
Right, I brought my show and tell props.
Right, let's.
But just, very quickly, the point I'm trying to make here is that what people may not realize is that we publish, booklets like this is for the schools, a wrestling tournament, and this something else for the schools. There was a recent auditorium opening. Peekskill, caring for the homeless of Peekskill, we published this program.
Oh, no kidding.
Theater, performing arts, Les Miserables.
I happen to be one of the executive board members.
I know. That's why I brought this. And then we also publish the Peekskill Celebration program. We publish high school newspapers for Yorktown and Briarcliff and Ossining and middle schools, and a paper that's further up north, the Hudson River Sampler. And so Westchester Community College, Phelps Hospital. One of our fastest growing divisions at the company is called Chase Press. It's a commercial printing operation, and we're one of the very few printers in this whole region that has very extensive printing equipment, and so we could do a lot of different things.
Sure, so you're putting all your people to work, and here we go once again.
Right.
So the experience, the expertise grows, and with that you're able to do bigger things into the community and the outlying areas.
Right.
And that's what makes a successful business.
No, and something and that's an excellent point, and it's really worth noting, especially in these unfortunate economic times that we are in, that one of Mr. Chase's hallmarks that his daughter Carla really carries forth, very seriously, is the loyalty to the workforce.
Right.
We all know what's going on around the country with layoffs, and again, the company is doing fine, and she's very loyal. And the last thing that she ever wants to do is and she sticks to that. Yeah.
My younger brother who started out in the accounts payable as an accounting, and literally his boss after 2 years says, it's time for you to leave.
Right.
And he's like, no, wait a minute. He goes, I like it here. He goes, no, you don't understand. In the business that you're in, you literally have to keep moving if you want to increase your salary. And and it's kind of counter to the way we were brought up, I think. It's like, look, if you work for a company, you were loyal to them, they were loyal to you. Why would you want to leave?
Right.
And that, I think, has changed in the business, climate that's
right.
there.
I mean, that goes without saying that today's generation of workers has very little loyalty to employers. They want to move on. They want to constantly move on.
And you know what? And if you want to be a good business, and for just for my own sake, I mean, we have people working now I have one working for 30 years. Started with my father. She still works with us to this day.
Right.
And the other ones have been at least 10, 15 years. And it's exactly the same thing. It's like once you come in, and it makes life easier for me, actually, because when you've got the right people doing the right job, everything else is easy.
But it's also, the fact that you have that kind of longevity in your workforce is a real testament to management.
Right.
I mean,
you're doing the right job.
And again, in our company, we have people of all ages. And I don't want to have given I'm saying I don't want to have given the wrong impression that even in our company, people of the younger generation like working there and they stick around. They're very loyal.
Good, very good.
Yep.
Okay, what do you least like, or what's
one of the things I least like. I mean, not only because unfortunately it hits so close to home with us having lost our son 6 years ago. It's the newspapers having to report the really awful stories about. There's been much too. I mean,
tragic illness,
right, but
whatever.
Especially we've been talking about this recently. I've talked about it with people in the schools and among our staff and friends, and nobody remembers years ago. There's in terms of health care and quality of life and society that you're supposed to be making progress as you move along, and nobody can quite figure out why it is that lately there's so many young people that lose their lives for whatever reason. And as I say, that it's awful that the paper has to report on that. I mean, there's no question that when that happens, people want to know about it and read about it. Yeah. But needless to say, it's extremely unpleasant.
The reporting being given that task has to go ask a mom and dad.
It's by far the worst.
It's tough.
The worst part of any journalist's job is having to talk to somebody who just lost a loved one.
Sure. Yeah. Speaking of which, maybe since we're on that, how did you end up as a publisher of the NCN?
Right.
And maybe let's segue into your foundation.
Right. Well, I mean, there is a connection there, actually. There's a very direct connection. And when I was consulting, my background is in business publishing, over a career that spans 25, 30 or more years. And I've always loved being in publishing and in media. And I did it in the corporate world. At one time I worked for a division of ABC. I really enjoyed that and used to go back and forth to LA every other week. And then I tried the consulting route for a while, and I really enjoyed that. I did speech writing and marketing and stuff like that. Then when I wanted to get back into the workplace, I saw that the North County News was looking for a publisher. And when I went in for the interviews, and the company, one of the company's hallmarks is that it is very rigorous in interviewing people. They want to make sure they're getting the right person, in key positions. So I had like 6 interviews. And it turned out that after I was hired, thankfully, Carla Chase and Frank Rich did mention to me that one of the things that they felt added to their interest in choosing me was that they knew me through our Harrison Apar Field of Dreams Foundation, which is a community charity. Fortunately, I was very gratified that the previous editor, Rick Pizzullo, was extremely generous in giving our foundation coverage in the paper and writing about us and the various fundraisers we did. It just so happened that when Harrison passed away in March 2003, Rick was there at the paper. He had been there for 20 years. And again, he really gave the foundation, and Harrison in particular,
a little boost.
A lot of ink, let's say. And then they named a field in town after Harrison, and so Carl and Frank knew me from that, and they liked the idea that in addition to my publishing background, that I was so invested in the community.
Now, just one thing, because I remember going to one of your, I believe it was the one where Craig Schulman was the
cabaret fundraiser at Travelers Rest. Yes.
And I believe that night I heard that it was where a next door neighbor also, or a friend of yours, where there was someone who had passed away.
No. What it is, Dominic, is that that's one of the the bonds.
It's almost like a tragic.
No, well, the bonds we have with Craig Schulman, who has appeared on Broadway in Les Mis for 2,000 performations, and has been in Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, it was a fabulous night. I couldn't believe
it. Again, tragically, Craig Schulman and his wife Monica Robertson lost their daughter.
Right.
It's now 10 years ago, and so we have this bond with them, and so. They have a foundation, Jenna's Dream, and we have our foundation. And so we had talked about doing something together. And Craig being this, this great entertainer, it just worked out really well.
Sure.
And so these days, it's interesting to me that community charities, you see a lot of them lately. And again, you have charities like Make-A-Wish, which is national, and other ones, one that's regional, Friends of Karen, that's very well known. Of course, much more locally, you have very well known Support Connection that does a lot of good work. I mean, ours.
Hope for Youth, all those like that.
Yeah, right. And there's a lot of that these days, which is great because obviously they're helping people. I really tried very hard at the beginning to set our foundation apart in a couple of different ways. One of them is that we hooked up right away with the Yorktown Police Benevolent Association. My friend Skip McKay has been a great supporter of ours, and he's an officer in the police force and with the PBA. And then the Yorktown Athletic Club. And the reason that I wanted to do that, and I really feel that it's paid off, yes, is because Harrison loved sports. He loved performing arts. He was a very good student. He was a writer. And everything we do, we try to reflect